Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Erin Sullivan, for those of you who don't know me. And for those of you who do, we're taking another look at my Rav4. So, in the last video about the transmission, we learned that when I was in drive, when it tried to switch into fourth gear, the transmission was acting up. So, it's been about a week, or a little bit more than a week since I did that, and I've been driving in and out of Boston, manually switching from third to fourth. So it worked good for, I'd say, about 4 days, and then it started acting up again, even when I was in third. So that means that, something's gonna have to be done relatively soon. Like I said, I work for the union, I drive in and out of Boston every day, so I need something reliable. There's no way I can be just playing this game of not knowing when the transmission's gonna go, because it's just something I really don't want to do. So I had gone to see an old friend of my dad's who's been working on cars for years. That is so cool.
Oh, smell that raw gas.
He kind of said the same thing. It's on borrowed time. Just start saving your money so you get a new transmission. So what I did was I went to a scrapyard or a boneyard, and they have a system of all different places that have the transmission. So they looked it up, and they're ordering me. It's a used transmission. It has about 60,000 miles on it, which isn't too bad. So I went there and put a down payment on that today, and right now I'm going to start disassembling, so when the transmission comes in, we'll be able to throw it right in. So keep watching. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you learn a lot. Thanks. Alright guys, so before I forget, I'd like to just point out, projects should only be taken on if you have an enormous amount of knowledge and or just skill with fixing cars. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And the thing is, if you really don't know what you're doing with a car, you don't have enough knowledge to the point of being able to do this, I would recommend just bringing it to the shop and have it done. Just spend the money. I mean, I know it really sucks. I know how much it is to get your transmission replaced, but this took so much time and effort and just skill and knowledge and just the amount of tools we needed. If if you don't have that, it's better off just bringing it to a garage. All right, so like I said in the last video, we had narrowed it down to either being the computer, the torque converter, or the transmission. Also, another thing to be noted, when we first checked the transmission fluid, we had to do a double take because when we first looked at it, it was black. I mean, it looked like dirty motor oil. We honestly thought there was motor oil in there, which would have been bad in itself. But we ended up finding out that it was transmission fluid. It was just so dirty. So that's just another warning sign in itself. So I drove it for a few more days, hoping that just shifting from third to drive would help. And it was fine. And then all of a sudden, when I was in third, it just started making noise too. So that's when I knew it was probably the transmission because it was just getting worse. So that's when I knew I had to do the transmission. So I had a few choices to make when I was getting ready to do this. I could have got a factory rebuilt transmission from Toyota, which would have cost about $2,000 and $3,000. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, that's understandable for the transmission, but I just wanted to see if I could get it anywhere else. Now, you can always look for transmissions at like boneyards and junkyards, which is basically the same thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Just remember that there's always a chance that it could not work. And of course you get your money back, but you still take that chance because then you have to do all the work to take it out and then do it all over again to get a new one. And it's just, sometimes you take the chance. But, I really didn't have the money to be spending almost $3,000 on a transmission. So I decided to ask around at the boneyard. So I went to Everett's in Brockton, and they told me that there was a transmission that they could order that had 62,000 miles on it, and it was in excellent condition. So they wanted $1,500. So I just went for the $1,500. Yeah, it was a gamble, but at the end of the day, what would be the worst thing? I get my money back and then have to go to the dealer. To prep for the transmission when it came in, we went out and we started disconnecting all the connectors, basically anything that had to come out of the engine cavity. It did. It was just like everything. So on my car, specifically the Rav4, 2010 Rav4, you have to take the entire engine out. At least this is the only way we could find. I'm sure maybe there's another way. I mean, there could be. Maybe Toyota knows something. But this is the only way we could find. So we started taking apart the engine. Well, not the engine, but we started taking out everything that stopped us from taking the engine out, basically. So I don't have footage of everything just because there was so much we had to do. My phone kept dying, my camera kept dying. So I got as much footage as I can, but here's just a list of what parts I remember overall taking out. It was just so much. So we took out the radiator, we took out the cooling fans, we had to disconnect the radiator hoses, the coolant hoses. There was dozens of electrical connectors. We took out the alternator, the AC compressor, the air cleaner housing. We had to take out the battery. We had to take out both CV axles. We had to take out the coolant tank, the motor mounts, dropped exhaust, the drive shaft, the starter. We had to drain all the coolant. We had to take the belt off. We had to disconnect the fuel lines, unbolt joints. We had to remove the two front tires multiple times. And not only that, my transmission's not just a transmission, it's a transaxle. So the axles and the transmission are one unit. So it was just a ridiculous amount of work. Keep that in mind. Those are pretty much all the things you have to disconnect, and there may be even more because this was just the list that I can remember. So yeah. After doing all this, we took out the engine crane. So we put that together and we brought it over to the car. And we mounted a chain on through two of the bolts that go into the engine. So then we started to jack it up. So to jack up the car, what we had to do was slowly pump the engine up and then roll the car back inch by inch until we were able to clear the engine cavity. So we didn't take the hood of the car off just for the hopes that we'd be able to get the engine out without taking the hood off. And we were actually able to do that. So just keep that in mind. If you are planning to pull the engine through the top, you don't have to take the hood off. You just have to be very careful. Now, just on a side note as well, all the parts that we took out of the engine, what we did was for like the nuts and bolts and all that stuff, we had all these separate cups that were labeled to what part they went to, and we just kept those all together in my dad's van, and we kept each cup with the specific part that it went to. This would just made it so much easier when it was going back together because rather than trying to figure out as you go where all the nuts and bolts go, this way you at least have them in a general area of where they go. Alright guys, so the engine is out of the car. Stay tuned for my next video where I show you how we swap the transmissions and put the car back together. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, drop a comment below and I'll be happy to answer it if I can. Alright guys, thanks, bye.